Hello, hello, hello. Welcome in Fantasy Life right here. Kendall, Valenzuela, Adam, Ronis with you, of course, for the next couple of hours on this Tuesday. Appreciate everyone hanging out with us today. We've got more training camp news, Adam. Another day closer to the start of the NFL season. How are you? How are you doing?
Doing well, you're right. There's so much news going on, and a lot of times you got to be careful with what you see. A lot of false narratives and people putting their own video with no context. So, yeah, it's the time of year where headlines can take off and oftentimes be deceiving.
Ugh, I'm in a draft right now, and I'm at the back end. I'm at the 10th pick overall, and Puka Nakua is right there. I took him anyway, even with the Matthew Stafford stuff. I'm not worried yet, Adam, but it was one of those things where I did look at it for a quick second. I didn't like the running backs that were there. All the really, 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 really elite running backs in that first round were already gone, actually. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to take Puka. But it was nerve-wracking for a second.
Yeah, definitely slight concern right now with Stafford, but there is plenty of time for the season to begin. Veteran quarterback, no need to rush him. You could sit him out, make sure that back is fine. But yeah, guy in his late 30s already with a back issue.
Oh, great.
Certainly a concern, but with Puka, you know you're going to get, massive targets. As I've said, the only concern with Puka is the touchdowns. Can he score
Yeah.
more? But, the target should be there. He had 160 in his rookie year playing all 17 games. So there's a chance he can come close to that again. If he does that in a PPR, you'll be happy with the return.
Can you imagine if we get a season? I don't want this to happen, but let me just say it. If we've already talked about how Devontae Adams was so pissed when Jimmy Garoppolo was his quarterback, can you imagine where we have a season where if the most unfortunate thing happens with Matthew Stafford, that he is again going, now he's on a new team with the Rams and he's going to have to get Jimmy G again? I mean, it would be a little bit funny.
Yeah, it
Not for
would.
our fantasy teams,
All of a
but
sudden, they become best friends. But, we're all forced to work with people
hey,
that we don't like.
you're not talking about me.
Not you, no.
Oh, okay. I was like, whoa,
I
we're
won't mention
starting
any
this.
names.
Oh, okay. All right. Are they here with us today?
I'm not going to say that.
Oh, okay. All right. I was like, whoa, we're starting it off right now. It's like we're starting off hot right now. That's fine. That's
Yeah,
fine.
we
I
just jump right into the
missed
fire.
one Monday, for a friend's wedding, and all of a sudden we're not friends anymore. How was flex? But I know you probably talked about this yesterday, but I do need to know how your flex draft went.
I thought it went well. I liked it a
Okay,
lot.
love.
What?
Love that.
Yeah,
Love that.
and I don't know if you saw it too. You don't have to start a tight end in this league. It's
Oh,
a
really?
yeah,
I guess I didn't know that. Has it
yeah.
always been like that?
No, it changed this year.
Oh,
I don't know. You're in the online. You might want to
I'm in
check
the
the rules.
online.
I think one of them is slightly
Oh,
different. One is an experimental where they changed the scoring system.
interesting.
So yeah, like I felt we always say, look at the league rules because I was talking to a couple people before the second draft and they didn't know that. They're like, oh,
Oh
okay,
no.
and I put them on. But I think Jake Seeley, who runs the Flex Leagues, I think he announced it before the draft. But like, you should be looking at this stuff beforehand. Like, I always like to write down the starting roster on paper. I just like to have it in front of me. I know you could look at it on the screen, but I just like, pen and paper, everything
Hmm.
in front of me. So I just, list what I need to start, the bench players. But yeah, some people just don't look at the rules and assume. And the tight end, you can start a tight end, but it's a flex spot. You're not
Oh, okay.
required to start a tight end. So again, we're playing in so many different scoring systems now, different leagues. Just make sure you look at your league settings and make sure you know what you have to start.
Yeah, good piece of advice. Who'd you walk away with? What the heck?
So I had picked three, and I
Yeah,
took Bijan Robinson at three. I didn't think
nice.
he was going to be there,
I was gonna
but
say, so was it Jamar
Chase,
Saquon?
yeah.
Wow,
And then
you
I
got
went,
your guy.
and then
I
I went
love that.
six straight wide receivers.
Did you? Are you being
Yes.
sarcastic?
No,
Oh,
yeah. Because
nice.
this league, you start three receivers and three flex spots. And the flex, I think one flex spot's receiver tight end, and the other two are running back receiver tight end.
Wow,
So I just said I like the receivers better on the board, and then I think I came back with like four straight running backs.
that's awesome. Who were your? Do you remember who your running backs? Do you have them in front of you?
After Bijan was Spears,
Okay, love.
J.K. Dobbins, Dylan Sampson,
Oh,
and
nice.
yeah, I got. Well, let's see, I have it here, and Ray Davis, Shipley. Yeah, so those are them. So yeah,
Those are good.
I really need
Nice.
one of those guys to hit. And the receivers were Higgins, Garrett Wilson, Tet McMillan, Jamison Williams, Igbuka, Pearsall, and
Wow.
Kyle Williams. And then the quarterbacks were Dak and McCarthy. And I didn't get Dak to like round 12.
Really? Where'd you
People
get
were waiting on
McCarthy?
quarterbacks.
Playing
McCarthy
the
was,
cat and mouse game.
yeah. And then,
We've all been in drafts like that where it's like, who's going to do it? I want to keep taking as many, receivers, tight ends, whatever it is, instead of going for being the first one to get that quarterback. I like that though.
yeah, Jalen Hurts was there in round 4. I could have taken him in my past. Burrow went in round 6. I was hoping he would, if he would have
Wow.
made it back to me, I would have absolutely taken him, but I figured he wasn't. So he went early round 6. Then I was eyeing Justin Fields in round 9. I passed. He didn't make it back. But if you're reading a lot of the Jets practices, it's been a rough few days for Justin
It
Fields. But
hasn't been great.
yeah, I'm not really worried about that stuff at this point.
Brees Hall walked away with trainers this morning. Did you see
He
that?
came back though.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Oh, see, this is how important it is. Look, that was 10 minutes ago. I got that report and now he's back. All right, that's
Yeah.
good. I like that though. Dak Prescott as your quarterback. Another season with Dak. There we go. It's gonna be fine.
Or I'll pivot to McCarthy
Or
if it
you'll go to
doesn't
JJ.
go
Oh
well.
yeah, you're not in the super flex. What round did you get? I love JJ McCarthy. He is one of my favorite. We've talked about him quite a bit this offseason, but we've just talked about the value of, some of these late round quarterbacks that have the potential to run, and when we look at JJ McCarthy, I mean, he's got the weapons around him. I mean, Jordan Addison, we're going to talk about here in a second, but it looks like we have maybe a little bit of an idea of what his suspension is going to look like. But that offense with Kevin O'Connell and JJ McCarthy there, I'm excited about that.
Yeah, for sure. Again, we've seen pretty much almost any quarterback under O'Connell produce. We saw Sam Darnold last year as a top 7 quarterback. So all the weapons are there. And even with Addison missing the first 3 games, shouldn't be a big deal if that's what it is. That's what the speculation
Yeah.
is. Could be a 3-game suspension. But yeah, he's in a good spot. He can run a little bit as well. So yeah, as your second quarterback, I'm going to do that almost every time. And again, in this league too, we have no kickers, no defense. So we have an extra reserve spot, which is why I took the 2 quarterbacks. It's 16 rounds. So I think it's 7 bench spots. And also, there's 5 IR spots too.
Oh,
So
wow.
that
Okay.
changes everything. So if a guy is ruled out for the week, you can put him in that IR spot and pick up someone to replace him. So I think it allows you in this format to have that second quarterback if you want. And it looked like many teams did take a second quarterback for in this as well.
Yeah, I mean, with the bench spots and then, like you said, the IR spots, there's really no reason. We talk about bench management and how sometimes, depending on what your roster size looks like, it's not, especially if you get one of those elite guys. It's like if you're walking away with Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, depending on how many bench spots you have, you don't necessarily need to go out of your way to get that second quarterback because you can usually find one off the waiver wire if you need a streamer just for the week that their bye happens. But if you have, that many, like you just said, and IR spots, yeah, that makes a difference.
Yeah, if I would have taken one of those top quarterbacks, I wouldn't have got a backup. Like someone took Jalen Hurts and in the last round took Aaron Rodgers. Why? That makes
Yeah,
no sense.
you
Like
would have
you're
been there on the
starting
waiver
Hurts.
probably.
Yeah, you could get someone. He's going to wind up being one of the first cuts. And someone drafted Joe Burrow. They didn't take a backup. That's the way to do it. The team that took Lamar Jackson did not take a backup. That's
Yep.
how you should do it. Those guys are starting for you every week. The bye weeks are later. You worry about the bye weeks when they come up, or the week before, or 2 weeks before. But especially now with a month to go, why are you going to have a second quarterback on the roster? It doesn't make any sense if you have those elite guys.
Well, I'm glad you had. First of all, I'm glad you had a good time. Second of all, I'm glad you like your draft. That's the most important part. Is liking the guys that you got.
Yeah, and then we'll find out how it goes as the season goes along.
And then
So.
mid-October, we'll check in and be like, actually, I don't want to talk about it. Or it'll be yeah, I'm going to win this league. So that's going to be exciting. We mentioned, I got just a few pieces of news here, but mentioned Jordan Addison. There is an article live on ESPN, and Jeremy Fowler did report that the Vikings, quote, the Vikings are bracing for roughly a 3-game suspension for Jordan Addison. Again, this is speculation. We don't have anything confirmed about this, but it does sound like the Vikings have a good sense of when and how long this suspension is going to be handed down for Jordan Addison. He pleaded, again, no contest to resolve a 2024 DUI citation. And this is kind of one of those things we've been waiting on. I will say, if we're looking, I know we had a caller maybe, and I think it was a keeper question, but Jalen Naylor is a name that we've seen floating around, not necessarily, depending on where he goes in your drafts, depending on how large Like we were just talking about bench spots and how deep your league is. Not necessarily someone that you need to go after, but Jalen Naylor is getting a lot of love at camp and is probably in line to be that wide receiver too when Jordan Addison is eventually suspended. But again, 3 games is better than, 4, 6 that we're kind of waiting on for Xavier Rashi Rice. And so we're just going to have to wait on this, but it does look like maybe 3 games here, Adam.
Yeah, and especially if this is handed down shortly and they come at the beginning of the season, it's not as big of a deal because those first 3 weeks, no one is on bye. You have all your options, assuming health on your roster. So where it does come into play, and I think this is where roster construction is important and where rankings can be a little misleading, is you don't want to take Ayuk, Addison,
Yes.
Rice on the same roster, right? Because now you got 3 guys who are in week 1 probably not going to play. Chris Godwin throw into that mix too. So that's where the roster construction is important and why I just hate the top 300 list because some people will just trust your opinion and just go, all right, I'm going to take the first guy off the list, cross them off. All right, I'm going to take this guy. And you got to look at what your roster is because you can't take multiple players that are going to miss the beginning of the season or suspended. You could say, oh, in the long run, it's going to be great. Well, you still got to get some W's early in the year.
Exactly. And there's going to be people listening right now. There's going to be situations when your drafts come up that these guys are going to fall. And a lot of these guys could be in the same range or lumped a little bit more together. And you're going to say, wow, do I want to continue to let this fall happen or do I want to take one of these guys? And I think it's important, like you said, Adam, you can, take a risk. It's calculated risk, right? If you know that some of these guys are probably going to get you zeros for the first 3, 4 weeks, depending on what the suspension looks like, depending on if they start the season on PUP and they miss 4 games, it's all right to take one of them, especially with those IR spots, like we talked about, if it's injuries. But taking multiple and hoping for the best with one of them is probably, you've taught us that, Adam. It's just like, don't trust the coaches, don't trust anything about injuries. Expect worst case scenario. And if it gets better, that's perfect. But taking a calculated risk on one guy is different than trying to scoop up all 3, like you said, and hoping that one of them is able to start for week 1. I will say the Vikings do have an earlier bye week. So their bye week this season is week 6. So if Jordan Addison gets 3 games, he'll play week 4, 5, and then be out for week 6. But again, nothing crazy. 3 is better than, maybe what we've seen before, maybe projections that we've seen for his potential suspension. So it's all good.
Yeah,
Hopefully.
and again, earlier in the season, getting it out of the way. We hope. I mean,
Yes.
again,
Hopefully.
no official announcement yet. They need to get this going, man.
I
And
know
for
if they
Rice
have an
too, let us
idea,
know.
I know if they have an idea, I want to believe that they have an idea for a reason and they've been talking, maybe the league has let them know or something like that. But we want these guys, especially, yeah, especially Jordan Addison, especially Rice. Like we're just waiting. You know what I mean? Brutal.
Yes, a lot of people are
Brutal.
waiting for this
Let-
decision.
Let's see. Travis Hunter. First of all, how do you feel about unofficial depth charts? I know
Oh
Ian
yeah.
Hartitz hates an unofficial depth chart.
Yeah, it's so bad. And like
It is
people
bad. It's
really
not
run with
great.
this stuff
I
too.
know. I know. Well, we're gonna run with it. We're gonna talk about Travis Hunter just really quickly, just because I agree with you. Unofficial depth charts are kind of awful, and a lot of people run with different kind of narratives that they see with these unofficial depth charts. But I will say the Jaguars did list Travis Hunter as a starter on offense, backup on defense. This is one of those guys though where maybe we are watching this a little bit closer. I've seen reports going out there, or maybe just articles, I should say, saying, "Hey, don't draft scared. Take Travis Hunter." Depending, especially on what round he goes in. But we're just trying to get a little bit closer each week, Adam, to an idea of what Travis Hunter's workload is going to look like, more specifically on offense for people going into their drafts in the next couple of weeks, because we do want to have some kind of idea. We can look at projections all day long, but if there's a world where it's truly a 50-50 split, then those are going to be a lot different come week 1 than what we're expecting him to be in right now.
A lot of it is can he handle it, right? We see
Yeah.
players who cannot stay healthy playing one side of the ball. Now we're asking someone to play both. So they're giving him more work on the offensive side. Liam Cohen was interviewed by Dan Patrick, and he basically said, yeah, he could play 80% of the offensive snaps, and they want to match that on defense, but it's easier for him right now at cornerback, and the offensive side is where he needs to work a little bit more. But yeah, look, you're seeing Hunter 5th, 6th round. I've taken him in a couple best balls, so I'm open to taking him for sure
Me
because
too.
he could really take off, especially if this Jacksonville offense is legit under Cohen if he could turn this around and get Trevor Lawrence going.
Yeah, especially, I mean, like I said, our projections are assuming that he is playing just a little bit more at wide receiver, but they're still, incorporating the potential switch on over to defense. So it could, the thing is that when you draft him and maybe the season comes and it's just like, hey, this is a little bit too much of a workload, or it's something where they start the season off and it's more at wide receiver and then slowly starts to become more of a split, you're still getting a lot of Travis Hunter over there. So I know that we're, just watching and trying to figure it out, but I also thought, Adam, that I thought he would be a little bit cheaper across some of these other platforms, because we talk about the ADP tool at fantasylife.com, which everyone can go and check out. It's something that I use every day on this show. But when I look at Underdog, he's going at pick 55. I thought maybe for ESPN he'd be in the 90s just because it's a little bit more cautious over there. People draft a little bit differently, but he's going pick 71 on ESPN, 65 on Sleeper, 71 on Yahoo. So it's not as big of a difference as I thought it would be, which is interesting.
He has that name. He has that buzz, right?
Yeah.
So I think there's always going to be someone in a draft that says, "Yeah, I'm going to take him now." But I think that's a fair price. I mean, the
Oh, for
71
sure.
is 71. That's good.
Yeah.
Around that range. Obviously, as we talk about all the time with Underdog, the receivers get pushed up, so you got to pay that price if you want them. 5th-round pick there, but 6th, 7th round on other platforms, I'm in at that price.
Yeah, 71 puts him around George Pickens, Devontae Smith, Calvin Ridley, Jameson Williams. So it's still a good range of
Yeah,
still a good name.
I'd take all those guys over him though.
Yeah, I would too. Cortland Sutton's also there. But it's because these wide receivers get pushed down. So he's not going to be in the same range of names that I'm going to give you on Underdog, like you said, because we
Yeah.
talk about the significant teardrop in wide receivers after round, 4 or 5. So when we're talking about these guys, these wide receivers are pushed back a lot. I mean, Zay Flowers is still here, Cortland Sutton, Devontae Smith is going late, pick 74, Pickens at 76, Calvin Ridley at 76. So you'll still get quality guys around there. But yeah, I thought he would be just a little bit cheaper over on ESPN. Last piece of news that I want to get to here is that just Isaac Guerendo. Just have to mention again, I think you probably talked about it yesterday, but with a shoulder injury, will miss a few weeks, which is not good, Adam, for this 49ers team. For any 49ers fans, I'm so sorry, because what is happening with the San Francisco 49ers? We know that they had the running back issues last season when it comes to just injuries. Christian McCaffrey's still good, but yeah, Isaac Guerendo, now they have Jordan James, Amir Abdullah. It's not a great way to start to be in the middle of training camp with the season starting in just a few weeks.
Yeah, maybe they wish they
Not
had
great.
Jordan Mason back. But
Mm,
anyways, with Guerendo, look, you were drafting him as a handcuff to McCaffrey anyway. So if he's not able to start the season, it's not the biggest deal. But staying healthy is definitely an issue. So, and the 49ers backup running back we know is valuable in case McCaffrey goes down. And yeah, he's healthy now, but he has consistently missed time over the last several seasons, including a lot last year. So you want to have that backup running back on San Francisco, whether you have McCaffrey or not. Like you're drafting in the double-digit rounds. Like I was taking Guerendo. I
yeah.
would put him on even if I didn't have McCaffrey in case McCaffrey does miss time. So there's still time for Guerendo to potentially be ready week 1, week 2, but certainly concerning to see this so early.
Yeah, it's not good. And like you mentioned, we talked about, taking him even if you don't have Christian McCaffrey. If you do have CMC, it's important to get these backup running backs just in case, especially, some of the older guys are the guys that have shown us injuries. Yeah, James Conner stayed very healthy last season, which doesn't usually happen, but another year older, same with CMC coming off those injuries. So Guerendo was also, like you said, a guy that I was comfortable taking even if I didn't have CMC, because he's stepping into this big role. If something were to happen, he's in line like Tyler Algier, Ray Davis, those guys that really will step into a bigger workload. So that's always why you want to watch out for these pieces of news with the RB2s and the potential handcuffs that you want to get in drafts. So it looks like he'll miss a few weeks. Hopefully, he should be ready. That's what they said, Adam. Should be ready by the start of the season, which is September 7th against our Seattle Seahawks
Yeah.
this season, Adam. You can say it. It's fine. I'll say it for you. But Yeah, it's still a few weeks. So Jordan James, I took Jordan James as my last pick in a really, really deep draft over the weekend, and I was just like, you know what? If this doesn't work, this is going to be one of my first cuts if Isaac Guerendo comes back. But with how the 49ers have been, especially last season, with how their injuries played out, I was like, okay, late round flyer on Jordan James, who's third in on the depth chart right now. I was okay with it.
Yeah, in a redraft league where you can make cuts, with a month to go before the season, that's the type of player you want to take. You put him at the back end of the roster, you see how things pan out, and if Guerendo is good to go, then maybe he's one of your first cuts and you get someone else, or maybe he becomes the backup, something happens to McCaffrey, and all of a sudden you got a starting running back in the last round.
And I will say that was a 14 team league. So in a lot of these leagues, he'll probably be someone that will say on the waiver wire a couple weeks beforehand, hey, if you've got room, don't you think? I don't.
Yeah, I think if it's a league with 16 roster spots, he won't get drafted now. I do think in leagues with 20, he will get drafted now based on this news, right? In the
Yes.
last, rounds 18 through 20, he'll go. But 16 roster spots, probably not at this point.
Yeah, so just watch out. Look at how many teams are going to be in your draft and just kind of figure it out from there. But those were all of the updates that we got this morning. We'll continue to look through everything from training camps. Again, fantasylife.com. That's where you can go sign up for that newsletter and use that promo code SXM20. SXM20 gets you 20% off any tier 1 or tier 2 Fantasy Life Plus subscription. So make sure you go and check those out. We've got more camp updates though. I will say that we got a piece from ESPN with key fantasy notes from a few teams, and a lot of them we have to be watching right now. We're going to give you those names and those notes coming up here next. Were you watching Lollapalooza streams? Our gal Sabrina Carpenter
No.
headlining? Oh
Is this her?
no,
Yeah, I didn't
no.
think it
This
was.
is this is. Hang on, I actually don't know this one very.
You
This
should
is
know.
Gracie Abrams.
Okay. I've heard this
Who I
song. I
think
don't
was
know who
also
it is.
there. You a big concert like I can't do crowds like that. Lollapalooza, any of the festivals, like those just freak me out. You'd see me in the very back,
Yeah.
but I'd still have a great time. But those crowds, no way, no chance.
I mean, you were at Radio Row for the interviews with all those crowds, and you were there early
Yeah, I
to
didn't.
get interviews.
Yeah, I didn't tell you how awful. Did you see how short I was? I couldn't breathe. It's just so many tall people around us. I had to just grab onto backpacks and hopefully we got it. That was kind of crazy.
Yeah, it was.
Seeing all those people in yeah, we camped out to talk to Saquon Barkley for 2 hours,
You did,
maybe?
yeah.
Oh yeah, you weren't there. I did
Oh,
that.
I got
You
there
you did.
after, but you were
Yeah,
there first with
it was great.
Matt Swing.
Yeah, it was fun. Not great. Anxiety through the roof, but still a great time. Anyway, I have no easy transition to get from Lollapalooza over to ESPN training camp updates, but here we are, Adam. It's that time where we do need to like just continue watching around, looking for any kind of notes, any kind of ideas that we can get on what some of these backfields, some of these wide receiver groups are going to look like. So saw this article on ESPN going through training camp news, buzz, and fantasy football updates, and that's from Fowler and Graziano put that out there. So make sure you go and check that out if you want to do the full thing here. But I did see some fantasy notes that I wanted to talk through and see where we're at with some of these teams in these backfields. So let's start with the Titans because we have talked about Tony Pollard, Tajay Spears. We just mentioned how important it is to potentially get these backup roles, but Tajay Spears, from what we look at, is looking like he's going to have a bigger role this season. So the Titans used a 75-25 share between Tony Pollard, Tajay Spears last season. And the report here from ESPN was that Tony Pollard's role isn't necessarily shrinking. He's still going to be that featured back and one of their best players on this team for the Tennessee Titans. But they reported that Spears has positioned himself for an uptick in usage. So last season, he ran the ball 84 times, 30 catches, and they are thinking there's going to be somewhere close to 100, 110 carries. That wouldn't be shocking to them, which again is interesting. We've talked about both of these guys. We're not out on Tony Pollard necessarily at his cost, at his price, but there have been more times this season than not, Adam, where I have said, you know what, I like a wide receiver in this range more. I maybe like another running back here more, and I'm okay with waiting. And if I want someone out of this backfield, Tajay Spears is right there, and I say, all right, you know what, I'll get Tajay Spears at this point. But it's really all about the injuries. Last season, each one of those guys did well once the other, of course, was out of the game or injured. So it's one of those things where you hope that both have a standout role together. But if they don't, it's really going to take an injury for one of them to step up into this bigger role.
Yeah, and we saw it last year. There were times Spears was out, Pollard had massive weeks, and then weeks 15 through 17, Spears was RB5 in points per game in PPR format. So it is really going to take one being out for the other to really go off. There was talk last year before the year that they wanted it to be more of a split, and it really didn't happen. It was mostly Pollard. So yeah, I'm open to drafting both. As I mentioned in the flex draft over the weekend, I took Tajay Spears as my third running back. I don't expect to start him, especially early in the year, unless the role changes in a significant way, which I'm not anticipating. But someone that I want on the bench in case something happens
Yep.
to Pollard, or the split is more 50-50, which is certainly possible depending on how Spears comes out and looks. And, Pollard is 28 now. And, he was banged up a lot last year. Even the weeks he played, he did not practice all week for many of those weeks late in the season. So,
Yeah.
yeah, again, I'll have Pollard a little bit higher, but I think the gap is closer than a lot of people think at this point. And if Spears just got that opportunity, especially in the passing game, he would be good. But I think right now he's just a guy that you have on your bench.
Yeah, I think it was closer to a 1A 1B situation last season, but the injuries for Spears were brutal. It felt like every other week or every month it was the sprained ankle, it was the pulled hamstring, and then he went concussion in November and December. But you still look at what he was able to do if you had him and if you needed to play him during the fantasy playoffs, like you said, PPR RB5 weeks 15 through 17. So he was able to help a lot of teams out if like I said, if they were comfortable with playing him down that stretch. So again, we talk about, what's a near every down role look like, for Tony Pollard in 2024. He still finished as the RB22 in PPR points per game, which also wasn't bad, Adam. So I look at this team and I say I'm comfortable taking both, but again, probably one injury away from either of them, being super, super, super meaningful for your fantasy football teams. But I'm still okay with taking that risk there. Another note that I saw from this ESPN training camp updates article, which is again at ESPN, so you can go and check out the full thing. Key fantasy note for the Ravens. I just need to mention we haven't talked about any backup behind Derrick Henry, probably because it's King Henry, and I have been on record saying that he's just going to keep going until he decides to hang it up. But I guess it is important to look at if you are in really deep leagues. They did mention Keaton Mitchell as someone to maybe keep an eye on. He made it back from he's really had injuries that's really kind of locked down his season, made him not be able to play. But it looks like this summer they said he appears to have his speed back. The Ravens are excited about it. Of course, Derrick Henry is still going to be Derrick Henry, but the report is that Mitchell adds a different element to this run game, and he could have a role in this offense. Again, this is a late pick. We're not saying take him and start him, but it's kind of interesting to hear that note.
Yeah, definitely. Because we saw in 2023, there was some excitement for him. He came on the scene. He ran for 396 yards, averaged 8.4 yards per carry in a 6-game stretch, and then tore that ACL. So, yeah, apparently they're saying the speed is back and they're excited about it. But yes, it's all Derrick Henry. You'll see Mitchell maybe in some blowouts. Or if something were to
Don't.
happen to Derrick Henry. But you said that's not going to
It's not going
happen
to happen. No.
because
We
that's
manifest on this show. It's not going to happen. He's got
okay.
$300,000 going for body and health, and it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
But also always something interesting. I know Justice Hill, when we look at the depth chart, is also someone that's technically the RB2 in this offense. But when we start getting ready for, like I said, yeah, just for the season, and we start talking through waivers or guys to maybe just have if you have deep bench spots, it's just someone to pay attention to. Not saying that you can start him, but a good note nonetheless there. And then I wanted to mention the Dolphins here, Adam, because again, I don't know how much we take into consideration with some of these reports, but if the coaches are listening, right, here's the report for Tyreek Hill and looking for a replacement for Achane in those short yardage situations. They said keep an eye on Alexander Mattison. So not anyone that we've been talking about for this team at all. We've been talking about I think everyone else except for Addison. I don't. Gordon is someone we've talked about. Jalen is just someone that we've talked about. I don't know. Do you believe any of this? I don't know if I can. Jalen Wright. I
Not
just
yet. Yeah, because I was like in Jalen Wright as the
yeah.
backup here. Look, they're just saying that he's been one of the biggest surprises in camp so far, and it's still early, and these things can change. So I wouldn't really do anything with this right now.
Okay. I wouldn't either because I read it and I said, "Wow, have we been drafting wrong the whole time?" Which is always, it's always a possibility, but they did draft Ollie Gordon, Alexander Mattison. We haven't mentioned that much. It's really been Jalen Wright, who we've talked a lot about. And I know we've talked with Ian Hartitz about Wright as well as just someone that, if the unfortunate does happen with Achane, which it's been talked about with his workload, with his size. But Jalen Wright's been the guy that I've been going to. Again, we don't want to overreact to training camp news, but someone to keep on the radar, I guess, Alexander Mattison. I'll say I've even taken Ollie Gordon with some of my final picks, depending on, the draft size and everything. And I've been okay with it just in case. He's got more of a depth chart to climb, obviously being a rookie, 21 years old and all of that. But round 6 pick is someone I'm still paying attention to.
I haven't seen Mattison drafted anywhere.
Yeah.
So
Should we start? You should have
no,
taken him over the weekend. Come on.
no.
Let's get into a draft right now. And your first overall pick could be
You can
Alex.
do that. And I'll watch from the
Perfect.
sideline and
How
cheer
about
you on.
You'll say, yes, love that pick. And then you'll come on here and say, what a horrible pick. I'm just saying, sometimes you have to, talk about the notes just in case people are reading them and we have to say, hang on, pump the brakes on Alexander Mattison. But it could be fun out of midway through November and we're talking. Could
No, it
you
will not
imagine
be
if we're
fun unless someone has Madison and they'll be like, yeah.
It'll be me. I'll make sure to draft him. Last one here, talking about running backs. Just going, like I said, rapid fire through some of these updates from ESPN training camps, and looking through them. The Jaguars, still a situation, Adam, where I'm just maybe the answer is to just stay away. I know that sometimes we want to take shots on guys that have the potential to take over a backfield, but from not only these notes that I've seen from ESPN reporters, but just all over, it sounds like the Jaguars plan to keep 4 running backs and use a committee approach there as well. So we've talked about maybe Travis Etienne. We're just a year removed, 2 years removed from him having a really fantastic fantasy football season. You've got Tank Bigsby as more of that physical guy, and then they go out and get 4th round rookie Bashaw Tutin. And so for me, I was taking a lot more Bashaw Tutin than any of these other guys. I said to myself, well, maybe I need to, take recency bias, push it aside, and draft a little bit more Travis Etienne. But it just feels like this could actually just be a mess the whole season, Adam.
Yeah, this is not what you want to hear for fantasy.
No.
It's brutal. So, they're saying Bigsby is the physical back. ETN will be part of the screen game and the passing game. Tootin with his speed is a big play threat. Even LaQuint Allen they're mentioning as well. So this is not ideal. I have taken ETN in some drafts because he's been going 9th round, sometimes 10th. People don't want him. Bigsby's been going double-digit rounds. I think he's going to move up because they've been a lot of positive reports on him that he's getting a lot of touches, but not likely involved much in the passing game. So, yeah, right now this is not what you want to hear. So I'd still lean ETN for the passing, but I'm still worried that maybe he doesn't get enough carries and that could hurt his role. So usually you don't want to say that about any backfield, but
No.
we are headed to that point where you might go, yeah. The thing is the cost though. These guys don't
They're
cost
cheap.
much.
Yeah, they're if they were more expensive, I think we'd be having a different conversation. We'd say we want to pass, but I mean,
Right.
the most expensive place that you're going to find, and it's going to actually be Travis Etienne, is on Sleeper, pick 88. With it 88 overall ADP, but ESPN, he's pick 129, 140 for Tank Bigsby, 169 for Bashaw Tutin. So
The
you're right, the
Bixby
price
price
is
is going to
there.
change though. So like in the flex draft that I was in over the weekend, Bixby went 9-5. So
Okay,
ninth
that will
round.
change then.
Yeah, so especially with these reports, so those, yeah, I'm interested like drafts over the next week, like where people are taking these Jacksonville running backs now, because you'll probably see ETN's price go down, Bixby move up a little bit, and maybe Tootin right behind them.
It's just not what we want to hear. Like, this is why we always pay attention to training camp reports, because usually we say, okay, here's someone that's really shining and is probably going to get more of the work out of this backfield. But when we continue to hear, it could be a 3-headed monster going into the season, that for fantasy football is something we usually don't want to touch. And like I said, for ETN, I mean, we've seen him dominate for fantasy. He had 325 total touches 2 years ago. And then you see last season lost work to Tank Bigsby, finished as the RB 37 and struggled with his efficiency. efficiency. So that's my thing. And I agree with you, though. They're not necessarily expensive where you're okay taking a shot. But Adam, let me ask you this before we continue on. If you are only in a handful, let's say a couple leagues, and if you're only in, one or two or three leagues, are you just leaving this backfield alone? Or if you had to take one for your fantasy team, who would it be?
It would still be ETN
Okay.
for me.
That's what I figured. Again, that
For
he's the most
you,
expensive
Bixby?
option. Am Bigsby, yeah. And like I said, I've taken Bayshall Tootin at the end because he's the cheaper option. But if I only had one or two leagues, I'd probably do Tank Bigsby. But I'm not. I have to just get over the recency bias with Travis Etienne. I had him a couple, or no, I didn't actually have him that much last season. But it was one of those things where maybe he can get back to that. We've seen positive reports from him at camp.
Well, especially in the passing game too. You're
Yes,
saying he's really
absolutely.
dangerous as a receiver.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm in on both those guys if you've got only a handful of leagues and you're not drafting as much. But just be careful. Like it looks like this could be a committee approach going into the season, which again is something that we do not want to have usually any part of, especially if these guys start to get a little bit more expensive as the weeks go on. We're going to continue though, and we've got more running back projections. I've got to talk to you about Christian McCaffrey and what Matthew Friedman thinks about his overall season and the potential. Same with Achane and Kyren Williams. We're going to go through those projections here coming up next. Let's be real, you're here to win a fantasy championship. And guess what? You're not going to win playing it safe. You've got to go hard. And no one understands that better than Mike's Hard Lemonade. To succeed in fantasy, sometimes you have to take bold risks like reaching for a rookie, making a blockbuster trade, or you guys all know, blowing your fab on a breakout player. And yes, your league mates might roast you in the group chat, but it is okay because legends do not play scared. They go hard just like Mike's Hard Lemonade. So crack open a Mike's, kick back for a second, and remember, nobody makes lemonade like Mike's. Find Mike's nearest you at www.mikeshard.com. Mike's is hard, so is prison. Don't drive drunk. Premium malt beverage with flavors, all registered trademarks used under license by Mike's Hard Lemonade Co., Chicago, Illinois. This is Fantasy Life right here. Appreciate everyone hanging out with us. And as always, make sure you go to fantasylife.com to help you dominate your drafts and then dominate the season until you get to that championship. We've got a promo code for all of our amazing listeners here. SXM20 gets you 20% off any tier 1 or tier 2 subscription over there at fantasylife.com. We've already mentioned we've got our rankings updated every single day. We've got Draft Champion. If you need a mock draft simulator, we've got all the stats and info from the utilization report, the utilization suite that you need. You can compare players now. It looks absolutely amazing. And of course, the Best Ball HQ. So you can upload all of your best ball drafts and see, who, whenever I'm talking about exposure or anything like that, I'm definitely using the Best Ball HQ. So make sure you go over there, fantasylife.com. SXM20 gets you 20% off. Speaking of, at fantasylife.com, Adam, projections. Matthew Friedman's updated projections. Where did Christian McCaffrey go in your draft over the weekend? Was he picked?
Ninth or 10th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. He has him projected for a potential RB1 finish. 265.8 fantasy points. And we've talked about Christian McCaffrey a lot. It was obviously disappointing last year with his knee injury. Fully healthy now, has participated in all phases of the team's offseason and preseason programs. Adam, I don't know if that moves the needle for you, but we talk about in-season injuries, guys that you just want to make sure you have the handcuff to. We saw it last season. He was, the number 1 overall pick in most leagues, unless you were listening to you because you said, hey, wait a second, don't necessarily love it. But it is interesting to see, the projections with, how many touchdowns he's projected to have, the potential that he has in this offense. And they're really banged up already. We've talked about the wide receiver room. So they're hoping between CMC and George Kittle, it could be big seasons for both of those guys, hopefully.
Look, there are going to be people who say McCaffrey, he's healthy now. He will finish as the RB1 as long as he stays healthy. And then there are going to be other people who are like, just don't trust taking him because of the injury risk. All the time that he's missed. I mean, it was both Achilles last year, 29 years old. And again, he's missed significant time in 3 of the last 7 seasons. So it really comes down to what side you're on. He's moving up, though. I've seen him go 5th, 6th overall. It's one thing, I guess, when he was going early second round months ago. you could talk yourself, okay, now I'm pairing him with another good player, but now he's moving up, he's going higher. So I'm still not really in on him. Now, I've said this, like if I'm in 10 leagues, I might take him in one. It would have to be at the end of round one because there certainly is the possibility that he stays healthy and finishes as the number one running back. It's definitely in the range of outcomes because he's going to be heavily involved in this offense, especially with everything that's going on with the receiver injuries. And we know he's going to catch a lot of passes. So, but in general, I'm going to be passing on him.
And we talk a lot about, trying to avoid landmines. If we get reports and we hear like, hey, this X player is not healthy going into the season, we always want to be careful. But between Christian McCaffrey feels like the one where it's obviously a split. People are going to say, yes, I'm in on CMC, or no, I'm out, and they're not going to take him. I will end up, like you said, I'll take him probably in one league just to have him because we always want to diversify and we want to make sure that all of our teams don't look exactly the same as the others, because then if injuries do happen, it's just it's unfortunate to have to look across all of your leagues and have to make those waiver wire decisions. But besides Christian McCaffrey, I'm curious, really quick here, Adam, who else is someone that you think, not necessarily, I don't want to say landmine in round one because it's always tough. We always say that these guys have all of these guys have potential to finish at the top spot overall at their position. But do you have anyone else? I've started to think maybe it could be Puka right now. If this Stafford injury continues to get worse, he'll probably go down.
I think the other one is obvious, is Saquon Barkley,
Mm,
just because of the workload that he had. Was it 482 touches last year? And if you just look at the history of running backs that have had 400 plus, the next year you see the stats go way down. Now, maybe Barkley is an outlier. He's 28 years old, and he's running behind a really good offensive line with Jalen Hurts, the quarterback. We saw how perfect that marriage was last year. And there were a lot of times where he didn't take a lot of big hits. A lot of those touches were easy gains with little contact. But, history tells us that it has not gone well for those running backs who have a massive workload like Barkley did last year. So I think you are seeing there are people worried about it, right? And
oh
we had
yeah,
this discussion at the end of last season. I even remember
the
we were
Super
talking,
Bowl.
yeah, and people were like, "Yeah, I'm not going to take Barkley." So it depends. Like most people are going to have them anywhere from 2 to 4 at running back.
Yeah.
Some people might say they're taking Gibbs over him, which I'm fine with. And then maybe you have someone who will take McCaffrey. But I have seen Barkley in some of these high stakes drafts slip to 7, 8, 9.
Interesting.
I did take him in the Scott Fishbowl, I think, at pick 3 because of all that volume. And
Yeah.
again, that league is, it's fun league, charity and all that. So, but I have yet to take him in any other draft.
Okay. That's another one where I guess I've seen him go later in drafts, like you said, so I don't even think about him because I think he's at the front of everyone's minds of someone that they're being a little bit more cautious about. So hit between him and CMC, it'll be interesting to see which one actually is able to maybe not outperform their ADPs, but at least come in pretty close here. We're going to continue through the projections. Also want to go through fantasy football rankings versus ADP over on ESPN. We're going to do that and more coming up next. Make sure if you guys have questions for us, we're heading to the water cooler next. 888-963-2682, or you can press that new call-in button on the Sirius XM app. You can also send us a message over there on X at Valenzuela17 at Adam Ronis. I see a couple keeper questions that we are absolutely going to get to, but make sure you get those calls and questions in so we can help you with anything you have for fantasy football here. Let me ask one more here, Adam, when we're talking about running backs and some of the projections that we have over at fantasylife.com. Kyren Williams right now is projected from Matthew Friedman, 14 touchdowns, ADP right now of 26.2-ish, so RB11, projected for an RB7 finish. Excuse me. You back in on Kyren? I remember you didn't fade him necessarily last season,
Oh,
but
I did.
we didn't. Did you? I
Yeah, I
wanted to say
did.
it wasn't a fade. Dang it. Okay, well,
No,
faded,
that one
and
looked bad.
it didn't work
I
out
had
for
him in
us.
almost every league in
I
2023
remember 2
because
years ago.
yeah,
Yeah.
but last year I stayed away. I mean, based on my early drafts, I haven't taken him again, which I wonder if it's a mistake. So last year he wasn't as efficient, but he had a massive workload and he stayed healthy. He had a couple of injuries last year in the offseason too, and even in training camp or OTAs. And I was like, he's not going to be able to hold up because he missed 5 games even in the 2023 season. And then he played 16 games, 316 carries. So they did draft another running back though, and
Hmm.
Jarquez Hunter, Blake Corum the year before. So you would think that they want to incorporate another running back, but McVay has shown confidence in Kyren Williams, and he keeps getting it done. So it's just I don't want to take him where he goes, and that could be a mistake.
I'm thinking it's a mistake too,
Okay,
because I
good.
looked around and I said, "Well, I don't have much Kyren Williams either," and it's not making me feel good. He's going pick 27 on ESPN, 26 on Sleeper, 35 over on Underdog. Yahoo's at 24. CBS, he's expensive. Pick 13. I
Oh,
won't take him
I'm
that
not doing
early.
that.
No, I'm not doing that. But you look at like his attempts,
Damn,
only Derrick Henry.
13?
I know Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley were the only two other running backs to have more carries than him last season or attempts. I just can't do it at 13.
Yeah, it was just can he stay healthy again is the big question. He was ninth in points per game at PPR last year.
Well, we're going to figure it out here sooner rather than later. It is time for the Fantasy Life Water Cooler. Make sure you're calling in for questions. We're going there next. Oh, you guys know what time it is by now. Time for that Fantasy Life Water Cooler, going through all the pieces of news, some of the training camp notes that you might have missed today and over the weekend, making sure you're all caught up. And of course, taking every single phone call that we can here. 888-963-2682 is the call-in number, or you can press that new call-in button on the Sirius XM app if you are there. Send us a message on at X, on Twitter, whatever it's called, at Valenzuela17, at Adam Ronis. I see a couple keeper questions that we are definitely going to get to. But again, 888-963-2682, the phone number to call in. We've got some pieces of news here, Adam, that we saw over the weekend. So Keenan Allen looks like he went and visited with Jim Harbaugh, and the Chargers on Friday obviously ended without him signing any kind of contract to rejoin his first NFL team. But it sounds like in reports the door remains open. I'm curious with you, if Keenan Allen signs somewhere like the Chargers or with a more wide receiver, needy team, would that move the needle for you at all? I know some people still taking him over on Underdog, which obviously is a lot easier than taking him in redraft because Underdog is just a drafted and forget it kind of situation. You don't have to set your lineups every single week. But for you, like if it was the Chargers, would you consider going back and drafting him?
Probably not. He did get drafted in my flex league
Oh, really?
draft over the weekend. He showed some promise down the stretch, but it also was dependent on volume. He's not a guy that is going to break these long receptions. He averaged 10.6 yards per catch, so I would say no. I mean, what is this? What are you going to get out of him on a weekly basis?
Well, you're not gonna know. It's gonna be a tough start, every single
Yeah.
week. It's gonna be one where you hope you get it right, unless an injury happens, which wouldn't be good. But yeah, I don't know. Going back to his former team, maybe people look at that and say, "Yeah, I want to get him." He had 904 catches, over 10,000 yards, 11 seasons with the Chargers.
Yeah,
But he's
last year.
older.
Yeah, 33 now.
Yeah. So I don't. It doesn't necessarily move the needle for me, but I could see maybe in what round he had to be one of the last picks in that draft. Then, if he was taken in your league.
Yeah, it was the double digit rounds
Okay.
for sure.
Yeah, just something to look out for. Could be fun training camp news. Who knows? We mentioned Isaac Guerendo is expected to miss a little bit of time here. We mentioned that at the top of the hour, Adam, but just making sure we go through all of the news that we talked about. It looks like he is going to be out for a few weeks. It will miss a few weeks per head coach Kyle Shanahan with that shoulder injury. So again, after a season where the 49ers just struggled to stay healthy with especially their running backs last year, we're not starting off super great, but we're looking and they're hoping that he's going to be ready by September 7th. I mentioned that, if you're depending on the league that you're in and how deep your bench spots are. If you're looking around and saying, okay, I maybe someone took Isaac Grendo. Mentioned that I took Jordan James in the final one of the final picks of a draft over the weekend. But he technically would be next man up. I don't know if this isn't a team, Adam, where we are looking at the RB3 on the depth chart and just saying, again, depends on the team, depends on how many bench spots you have and how big your league is. But Jordan James should be probably a name to remember just in case.
Yeah, you'll start to see him go in the final rounds of drafts, would be my guess at this point, because people love the 49ers running back. Whoever has
Yeah.
been in this system usually plugs in and is productive. Although, last year they got down to like fifth 6th on the depth
It was
chart with
bad.
all the
I was
running back
someone where I
injuries.
was like, hang on, I don't even know the next guy to write on the waiver column. That's how deep we got with these running backs.
Yeah, so Guerendo definitely was a valuable handcuff. I saw in the Flex League draft over the weekend, the team that took McCaffrey took Guerendo in the 9th round.
Wow.
So he's a more expensive handcuff, obviously, with McCaffrey and his health. You could understand why. But yeah, you'll start to see James go in the final rounds of drafts.
Yeah, it's again just a name to remember, depending on how big your league is. But Jordan James is definitely the guy to know. Just late round flyer could be one of your first guys that you cut when we're talking about waiver wire additions, Adam, because we never get to run that pure for fantasy football. So we know there's going to be some injuries week 1, week 2, where you're going to have to head to the waiver wire and try and get your roster figured out here. When we talk about handcuffs, who in your mind is if we had to name top 3 handcuffs or guys that you're not necessarily going out of your way, but at cost, you're comfortable taking because if there was an injury, or maybe we look at these guys and they have standalone value. I know we've talked a lot. I think it's one of the bigger ones. If people think that Cam Scadaboo isn't, in a 1A, 1B situation, it might be Cam there. Jordan Mason, we've talked about a lot with the Minnesota Vikings, is probably another. But do you have others that you've been looking at saying, I need a piece of that?
See, this is a tough question because you can't consider Jordan Mason a handcuff
No,
right
you
now.
can't.
He's
That's what
going
I'm
so
saying.
early and there's talk about basically a split. I mean, Mason is getting a lot of hype and he's being drafted pretty early. So a lot of these guys that are maybe the backup that we look at as handcuffs are going pretty early.
And
Ah,
some have standalone value. Cam
yeah, so
Scadaboo, in my opinion, does. Jordan Mason, even Zach Charbonnet. I mean, with all the injury news that we've already heard about,
well, I saw a Giants reporter say it's 100% Tracy's backfield. Like that
mhm,
Scadaboo has not been healthy. He's not on the field, and it's Tracy, and it's not even
and that
close.
could be
So,
it.
so
I
yeah.
mean,
And then you have Charbonnet, obviously, right? I maybe you missed this, but Kenneth Walker has missed
no, I didn't miss
you just
it.
didn't want to
It's
talk about
just
it. I
I
get
don't
it.
want to talk about it. But it's like
The
it's
foot
like
injury for Kenneth
you know
Walker.
football season is happening when you get the sleeper updates that it's Kenneth
Kenneth
Walker's
Walker's on
quit,
the injury.
Ben from healthy to questionable, and I'm like, yeah, that's great. It's football season now. I don't know what I'm so disappointed with that because if the injuries really do happen again, like we saw last season, what he missed 6 games in this offense, whoever's out there is going to have this huge workload with
Yes.
Clint Kubiak. And so I'm now at a point, Adam, where, we don't want to overreact to injury news, but I actually think I'll end up with more Zach Charbonnet than Kenneth Walker this season. I just might,
I'm not gonna overreact yet on
I'm
Kenneth Walker.
overreacting.
A lot of people will just because of the injury history. It still
I
is early
just,
August. I'd rather them be cautious and hold him out. But yes, people are like, so the people who are anti Kenneth Walker, oh, I told you, see, he's
which there
always
are a
hurt.
lot, there are a lot out
There
there
are, yeah,
because of the
because they
injuries.
just, yeah. When he was on the field last year, he was really good. And again, with Clint Kubiak coming in this system, it's perfect for him. So I'm not moving him down yet, okay? But Charbonnet, obviously, I don't think he has standalone value. But we saw last year, I think it was 18.4 touches. I was looking at this
Let me
yesterday doing some
look.
research. I think it was 18.4 touches without Kenneth Walker in the 6 games. So, and I had him in a lot of leagues. So I was really happy when Charbonnet got that opportunity. So he's a guy that is, I don't think has standalone value, but a good handcuff. But that's tough, man. Like trying to, like to do a rankings of handcuffs because I don't think you could put Jordan Mason in that conversation.
No,
He
I don't
is being
either.
drafted. I've seen a draft where he went ahead of Aaron Jones. So you really can't put him in that handcuff conversation. You have J.K. Dobbins and R.J. Harvey, where Dobbins has been moving up. You're getting, reports on him that the pass protection is an issue for R.J.
Yeah.
Harvey. So, yeah, a lot of these situations, and you can't consider David Montgomery a handcuff for
No, no, no.
Gibbs because they both have value. Then we talked about Spears and Pollard, and they're going close together. So yeah, it's really tough to rank them. I mean, Ray Davis goes lower. He's obviously a really good handcuff if something happens to James Cook. Braylon Allen, who has
Yeah,
moved up,
Braylon Allen.
and he might have some standalone value with the way they want to run the football. You're hearing James Conner was saying, yeah, Trey Benson's going to
Yeah,
play a lot. It's
I saw
so,
that. I was like, wait,
but
James
every
Conner, please
comment that
stop.
we've heard from the coaching staff is, yeah, Connor's backfield. It's Connor.
Yeah,
So
I just But those are probably the, big ones with guys that don't necessarily aren't like a Charbonnet, aren't like a Jordan Mason, where Tajay Spears, like where they could have, potential standalone value. It's the Trey Benson, Tyler Algier, Ray Davis kind of Rico Dowdle for Chuba Hubbard. There are some where again, they're priced like, handcuff running backs. Some are going to be more expensive than others, obviously, with the running backs that we've seen over the last couple of seasons go down with injuries. But yeah, it is hard to rank them. I've talked about Taj Brooks, Dylan. You can't even talk. I mean, Dylan Sampson could be the RB1 in that offense this season, because we still don't know what's going to happen. We still just don't know what's going to happen. I know Jerome Ford is still over there, but there's a situation where Dylan Sampson's the RB1.
Yeah, I've said it last week in the flex draft. I took Sampson over Ford. It's for my bench, and I'm hoping to hit a home run with Sampson, and he gets that opportunity and shows some of the ability that we saw at Tennessee. So I'm going to take him higher. Again, they had Jerome Ford, and they went out and they drafted 2 running backs in round 2 and round 4. That, to me, is not a vote of confidence in Jerome Ford.
No, I get it. Again, phone number to call in 888-963-2682, or press that new call in button on the Sirius XM app. You did mention the reports coming out for the Broncos. It looks like reports have been saying that J.K. Dobbins is the RB1 and stays that way until R.J. Harvey gets better at pass pro. So this is from Broncos beat writer Benjamin Albright. And it's just one of those things, Adam, again, where we don't want to overreact, like me overreacting to Kenneth Walker and just making my Seahawks fandom just a little bit more difficult. But when we do look at this, it's been the conversation. It was obviously RJ Harvey's backfield, but when they went out and signed J.K. Dobbins, it did make us take a step back and say, okay, what is this actually going to look like? I still love Harvey. I like that when J.K. Dobbins came over, his price dropped a little bit. But it's one of these things where we don't necessarily want to overreact, but it does look, like a split or maybe more towards J.K. Dobbins until things get figured out, that happens with rookies though, Adam. We've talked about that. Sometimes it takes a little bit to get comfortable and to get better.
Yeah, I'd rather have Harvey and have him ranked higher, but the gap is close between him and Dobbins, and I did take Dobbins in that draft over the weekend. So, look, this offensive line is really good. They want to run the football. Dobbins, when he was healthy last year, was very good, broke some long runs. So, if I don't get Harvey and Dobbins is in a spot where I could use a running back, I'll take him. But I do think Harvey, as the season goes along, I mean, he's a good fit for the passing game. But, yeah, you got to be able to pass protect. You can't get your quarterback crushed.
Yeah, so we're hoping for a big season out of Harvey. Me more Harvey than J.K. Dobbins here. That's who I definitely have more of. But we might just need to temper those expectations a little bit early on if Dobbins does open the season as the RB1.
Wow,
It's
the
one
price
of those.
on Dobbins on some
He's
sites.
expensive.
No, well,
He's more expensive than Dobbins, I should say. RJ Harvey is.
oh yeah. I'm
Yeah.
saying Dobbins is pretty cheap.
Oh no,
117 on
he's.
ESPN, 123 on Sleeper, 119 on Yahoo,
Mhm.
113 on RT Sports. Underdog the most expensive at 105. But
Yeah.
yeah, that 117, 120 range, yeah, I'm gonna take him there.
Yeah, it's a good price, like I said, especially if that's how the season starts, and we've seen it. I mean, people were hoping maybe Javonte Williams last season was going to be able to take over, but we saw a true. I mean, between Audric Estime, Jaleel McLaughlin, Javonte Williams, it was somewhat of a rotation, and so J.K. Dobbins is definitely going to be involved. I don't think that's a question that we've had. It's just when is the time that R.J. Harvey really steps up for this team? So something to watch out for there. And then last one that I just wanted to mention here is JJ McCarthy will play in the team's preseason opener against the Texans. Your quarterback now on your flex team. Love it. I'm excited to see him.
Yeah, look, we don't get to see a lot of the key players for an extended period of time in the preseason. So it's always good to see these players go out there, and especially McCarthy, right?
He needs. I mean,
Yeah,
he
you have
needs
to
it.
take
We
a
have no
snap.
sample size.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
want to see
So
him out there.
something to look for there.
And then we
Again,
can
fantasy.
overreact to every throw he makes.
Or run, like imagine the rushing yards in that game. I'll talk about that all day on Monday. I'm just going to let everyone know. FantasyLife.com. That's where you can go and sign up for the newsletter. Use that code SXM20, gets you 20% off any tier 1 or tier 2 Fantasy Life Plus subscription. Let's head out to the phone lines now, though, Adam. We've got callers on hold. We are going to get to you here. Let's go out to Steven in Texas. Steven, what do you got for us?
Hey, good morning. I've got a keeper question. I'm drafting in the 10 spot, and I can keep two players. I got Jamar Chase in the first, A.J. Brown in the third, JSN in the 11th, Laporta in the 12th, and Bucky Irving in the 15th.
Well,
Bucky
Berkey is
is-
an easy
yeah,
layup. You got
Bucky
to
for
take him
sure.
in the 15th. And then for me, it comes down to Chase or Brown. So he's picking 10th.
Yeah, picking 10th.
I would
Brown is in
take
the third.
I would take Chase. I do like AJ Brown a lot. I really do. I think he's being undervalued. We've talked about this because Philadelphia was near the bottom in pass attempts last year, and that's going to change. And Brown had 145 and 158 targets in his first two seasons in Philadelphia. If he gets back in that range, he's going to smash that ADP. But Jamar Chase, you're not getting him back. You're picking 10th.
No.
So I would just take Chase and Bucky Irving, and then and go from there.
Yeah, I like those ones, especially because the 10th, like you said, the 10th overall pick, Jamar Chase is not coming back to you. So I like that one. And then Bucky Irving is just a steal. So appreciate you calling in, Steven, and good luck in your draft. Let's continue on here. Let's go out to Lee in Tennessee. Lee, what do you got for us?
Good morning. Good morning, gang. Thanks for taking my call. Hope you all are doing well. Enjoy all your advice. Fifth pick in a 10-team super flex half PPR. Just looking for best advice. I was going to do, if the top 4 or 5 QBs are gone, I'm focusing on wide receiver with more running back depth this season. Just wanted y'all's opinion on fifth pick for that super flex half PPR.
Yeah, no, appreciate you calling in, Lee. I was gonna say if top quarterbacks though shouldn't be at the fifth pick, Adam, a top quarterback should still be there, right? Because you've got Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, of course, Josh Allen at the top. So I feel like one of those guys should be there. It's just the question of if you want to take Joe Burrow. It's usually Joe Burrow the last pick there, or I've seen Joe Burrow go ahead of Jalen Hurts in some of these, but one of those quarterbacks should be there. It's just the question of do I want to take that quarterback, or if Jamar Chase is on the board there, do I want to take him instead?
Yeah, in a 10-team league, I think you don't have to go quarterback. I like getting one of those elite quarterbacks more so in a 12-team league. But yeah, one of those quarterbacks will be there. Burrow might be the fifth guy there. So I would probably go with the quarterback and then hammer skill position players. I would not worry about my second quarterback in this super flex 10-team league. Maybe you get a Drake May, a McCarthy, Bryce Young. I would really wait on it. So I would take the elite quarterback at 5. If you want to go Jamar Chase, I will not argue with you. In a 10-team league, I think there's depth at the quarterback position. It's a little bit different in a 12. In a 12, I would definitely take the elite quarterback there. But in general, I'm going to go one of those top quarterbacks, then hammer the skill position players. And especially in a 10-team league, you'll be able to get a third quarterback too.
Yeah, and you can wait, like Adam said. You don't need to go back to back. A lot of your league mates might go back to back with their quarterbacks just because super flex. Sometimes, Adam, people just say, I want to get both of my guys, and then I want to fill out my roster from there. But in a 10-team for me, if you're at the fifth pick and you're going to get one of those top, I didn't even mention Jaden Daniels at that top pick, but Hurts, Daniels, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen are usually there. Well, one of them is going to be there at the fifth, or like you said, Adam, you take Jamar Chase, and we won't argue with that, and then fill out that roster and then come back with a quarterback a little bit later. Appreciate you calling in though, Lee. Same with you, Steven. Again, phone number to call in for anyone else, 888-963-2682, or you can press that new call in button on the Sirius XM app. We're going to continue on because we get to talk with the one and only Paul Charchian going through Guillotine League advice. We're going to do that here coming up next. Fantasy football is live. Guillotine Leagues is also live with Paul Charchian joining us right here, Fantasy Live on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio. It's about that time, Paul. We've got Guillotine Leagues happening, Guillotine League drafts. Yeah. We've got fantasy drafts either starting right now or going through them. It's the best time of the year. How you doing? Welcome in.
Well, I'm doing great because it's guillotine season, and there's a lot of new emphasis on guillotine leagues. A lot of people learning about it for the first time, and guillotineleagues.com has got a platform in which you can play for free, play with your friends for free, private leagues for free, public leagues for free if you want to try them out, or paid leagues if you want to try to win some cash. Guillotineleagues.com, and all of my guillotine-specific rankings available at fantasylife.com. It's not easy to get Guillotine League rankings anywhere, let alone from anybody you trust. I've been doing this longer than anyone. I want to believe that my Guillotine League rankings are going to be spot on. And there's some really key differences. In Guillotine rankings, from standard rankings. If you roll into your guillotine draft with a cheat sheet for regular use, you are at a major disadvantage for a lot of reasons. And what we can do today is highlight some of the players that are different.
Look at that. You're making my job so easy here because that's just the easiest transition in the world. We can talk about the running backs more specifically that you have ranked higher in guillotine leagues than consensus fantasy life rankings. So we can get started off the top. Someone that I feel like almost no matter where we're at, Paul, like guillotine leagues, just regular redraft formats, Alvin Kamara just every single season seems to outperform his ADP. But why are you looking at him as a running back that you have ranked higher than just consensus rankings?
I think people have grown bored of Kamara, which is silly. It's just we've been talking about him for a long time. We get distracted by the shiny new guys that we're excited about. Last year, Kamara was really shockingly effective in a horrible situation. Offensive line battered, ineffective. Quarterback play last year once Derek Carr went down was awful. Every starting Saints receiver got knocked out, as we all know, last year. It was really Alvin Kamara against 11 guys last year. And despite all that, Kamara posted his highest yards per carry in 3 years. He had an 18% broken tackle rate, which is good. It's not great, but it's the same as Saquon, Barkley, and James Cook. He finished his Pro Football Focus as RB19. That was better than he had in 4 years. And the team added first-round left tackle Kelvin Banks, and he should make an immediate impact. So I roll all that together. I like Kamara, but here's the best reason. It's his PPR, baby. Yeah. He's gold in guillotine, where we just want to make sure nobody flops because he's always catching passes. The last 2 years, he's gotten you at least 6 PPR points just from receiving. Just the receiving part, 6 PPR points in 23 of 27 games. Alvin Kamara. That's the kind of safety that you can't get from many other players. And it's why I've got Alvin Kamara 12 spots higher than the Fantasy Life expert consensus for regular leagues.
How about a guy like Chuba Hubbard? If you go look last year, like his floor was high every single week. And again, not a very exciting player. Those that had him last year were very happy with his production. But why do you have him a little bit higher than consensus?
Yep, I've got him 15 spots higher. That's about one round in a guillotine league. Typical guillotine leagues, they can be any size, but 18 is typical. I love a player who breaks out in his 4th season, which almost never happens. His coach, Dave Canales, loves Chuba Hubbard. Who doesn't? Talks about him as a professional. They've sunk so much money into that running back position that when they signed Chuba Hubbard, we're like, you already got like $25 million a year sunk into running back. What are you doing? But Hubbard's just that good. From week 3 forward last year, so almost the entire season, Hubbard averaged 18 PPR points per game. 18. Yeah. And this is critical for guillotine. He only fell below running back 15 4 times the entire rest of the season. And his utilization rank from week 3 forward, 8.9, the second highest of any runner. Volume is just so critical to guillotine leagues because that's how you avoid dud games. Your guy's got the ball in his hands a lot, no matter what position he plays. Chuba Hubbard fits that bill. I've got him going about a round higher than Fantasy Life expert consensus for regular leagues.
Talking with Paul Charchian again. Make sure you're giving him a follow at Paul Charchian over there on X, talking about running backs ranked higher in guillotine leagues than consensus rankings. So going over to Chase Brown, who again, we kind of knew, Paul, that this was Chase Brown's backfield. Zach Moss is now off this team, which is, I mean, I think that is still a big deal because until Zach Moss was injured, that's when we saw Chase Brown get that elite 85%. He took 85% of the team's offensive snaps. What are you looking at with him?
I've got him about a half round higher than the Fantasy Life expert consensus for standard leagues for guillotine use. Now, you probably saw this quote a couple of days ago from offensive coordinator Dan Pitcher, who said he expects Brown to be a household name by the end of the season. I think he's right. I think we're all going to look back and go, why? I could have had Chase Brown. I had a couple of shots at Chase Brown. I didn't take him. Man, am I a dumbass. This is going to be a great opportunity. Last year, from week 9 forward, so really second half of the year, when Brown started catching passes, and that was the big difference. Week 9 forward, they integrated Brown into the receiving game. His utilization score, 9.5, number 1 among all runners in the second half of the season. Also, from week 9 forward, he was running back 4 in PPR scoring. And his receiving got so much better as the season went along. Again, week 9 forward, when they started really targeting him, they hit 42 targets, 1 drop, and he never fell below 3 receptions in any game. Chase Brown is going to be such a much bigger PPR helper than people realize. And he's the starting running back on a team that might be the highest scoring team in the NFL. Where Chase Brown is going right now, borderline criminal. I've got him ranked 26th overall. Again, about a half round higher than Fantasy Life expert consensus.
You've mentioned it before. We keep hearing the reports about Jordan Mason and how this is going to be tight with him and Aaron Jones. Mason still undervalued.
Still undervalued. Right now, today, I've got him ranked 79th overall. That's higher than pretty much anybody anywhere. And it's 28 spots over the Fantasy Life expert consensus. Oh. So let's talk. And the three of us have talked about Jordan Mason at least once and maybe twice in the past couple of months. But let's reiterate the key points that you need to know. Aaron Jones is awful in short yardage. Last year, 13 carries from inside the 5-yard line, -2 yards, and just 3 touchdowns on those 13 tries. That's it. This team at the stripe is going to go to Jordan Mason, who weighs 20 pounds more than Jones. He's much more of a tough inside runner. Vikings bulked up the interior of their offensive line specifically for this use case because they want to be able to run at the goal line and not ask their first-year quarterback, J.J. McCarthy, to make game-changing decisions passing from the 3-yard line, the 2-yard line, the 1-yard line. If you can just run it in, I think that's what they're going to do. Now, Mason isn't going to catch. We talked about the value of PPR guys, but he's going to help by chipping in touchdowns. He brings 1 touchdown, 2 touchdown, maybe even 3 touchdown upside to virtually every Vikings game because he's going to get the ball there. And by the way, I'll mention this because I mentioned this last time. If you're wondering how certain I am that Jordan Mason is going to get the goal line use, Aaron Jones told me Jordan Mason's going to get the tough yards. He's going to be the short yardage back. I got it from Aaron Jones. So if it doesn't come true, blame him, not me. But that is the plan for the Vikings. And we're going to see a 1-2 punch at the start of the season. I think it's going to be roughly even with Jordan Mason getting the goal line touchdowns. And it could be that as the season goes on, Jordan Mason is just too good. And it turns into really a Jordan Mason helmed rushing attack. That's possible.
It's insider Paul Charchian to everyone else. It's you're getting the reports, boots on the ground, Paul. We love that.
Yeah, and we love Aaron Jones too, by the way.
We do.
And
we do.
Great guy, good player. We're not denigrating Aaron Jones as much as we are lifting up Jordan Mason.
Exactly. All right, Paul, where can everyone go besides, guillotineleagues.com? Is that, and then fantasylife.com. That's where we can go get all of your expert analysis and then go join some guillotine leagues, right?
Yep, super fun. And if you just want to dip your toe in to guillotine leagues at really no risk, just go join a free league. Costs you nothing, and you can see what guillotine leagues are all about and see if you love it.
It's fun, just like me beating Adam last season. It's just a great time.
No, Adam, it's fine.
I finished ahead of you in that league.
No, you were eliminated
first.
No, I don't remember that at all. I don't think that's a thing. Paul, we appreciate you again. Guillotineleagues.com, fantasylife.com to go check out those rankings and join a league. We'll talk to you next week.
Talk to you next week. Bye-bye.
Awesome. Thanks. There he goes again. Paul Charchian at Paul Charchian over there on X on Twitter. Make sure you're giving him a follow. We're talking with Bruce Murray coming up here, talking all things Packers in training camp. We're going to go through that coming up next. This is Fantasy Life. Appreciate everyone hanging out with us right here. Kendall, Valenzuela, Adam, Ronis, and we have Bruce Murray joining us right now. You can hear Bruce and John Kuhn from Packers camp today at 2 p.m. Eastern on NFL Radio, Channel 88. They get to talk to running back Josh Jacobs, their GM, and much more from Green Bay. You can hear every tour stop right now on the Sirius XM app. Just search Training Camp Tour. Bruce, we appreciate you joining us. How you doing?
Doing great, thanks. I'm actually overlooking practice right now. They're about to get started here in Green Bay. So a chance to evaluate maybe some of those guys for the upcoming draft.
Love it. Now, we appreciate you joining us right here. My first question, since, we're keeping it Packers focused here, is your maybe expectations for Jordan Love. I mean, he slipped for us in fantasy football, QB 17 on the season, was somehow QB 33 on a per game basis from weeks 8 to 18. We're hoping that we get a little bit better season from him this year. So what are your expectations going into 2025?
My expectations would be kind of like yours, better than they were from last year. I mean, we all got excited from what we saw from him when he first got the start 2 years ago. And then there was a level of disappointment that the game didn't get better. His game didn't improve from last year. Of course, he missed 2 games early after he got injured against the Eagles. But, they invested in the offensive line in the offseason, in free agency. They've got 3 guys that they drafted, 4 years ago that have kind of grown up together and started a lot of games here. We all know what they did in the draft, obviously, with 2 wide receivers in their top 3 picks. You got a great – this should be a balanced attack. Now, they're not going to throw it 50 times a game. So if you're looking for, those fantasy football numbers that we love because that's all we care about, I don't know that you'll get that, but I think he's going to have a really solid season. I think his touchdowns go up. I think his yards go up. Some of that a product of him playing, hopefully, all 17 football games. I expect him to be better. I really do.
That. Love it.
Yeah, health was definitely a factor for Love last year where he played through some injuries and it forced the Green Bay to give Josh Jacobs a massive workload, 337 touches. Do you see a similar range for Jacobs this year?
I think I saw you guys talking about that you were going to evaluate the running backs today. So I want to hear what your opinions on that. I think they'd like to scale them back a little, to be honest with you. I think I was just in Philadelphia with the Eagles, and I think same idea. Like, we love what Barkley did, but we'd like to scale him back. And I know from a fantasy football perspective, everybody gets concerned with the wear and tear based on the carries. And I know what history tells us, but it's hard to ignore what they did last year. And I know we're here to talk about Josh Jacobs, but I think that his workload may go down a little, but I do think he could play a bigger role in the passing game, which I know in fantasy football, when you got those points for reception, could be big. I don't think it explodes, but I think he's comfortable in that role. And, I would expect him to have a great season here in Green Bay.
I think we expect that too, right, Adam? It's just the question of, we've said, okay, if this workload for Josh Jacobs does come down a little bit, if we don't see the 301 carries, who's that next guy up? And we talked about Marshawn Lloyd, and it looks like, Marshawn Lloyd's already dealing with injuries again, which has kind of been what has, held him back over last season, especially Emmanuel Wilson has a question mark next to his name. So it's kind of the question of if Josh Jacobs does get scaled back, who's that next guy up? Maybe the late round sleeper for us for running backs, but it doesn't feel like Marshawn Lloyd can't stay healthy right now.
Yeah, and I'll ask you guys that same question because I was out here earlier with the general manager and we were talking about some of the guys that are banged up, and I think on family night 13 guys couldn't participate. They're being real careful with them. Nothing that would concern them about their availability for week 1. But when you're in Green, if you're drafting a guy, and I know you say late round sleepers, then you're banking on an injury because there's not going to be a lot of carries to go around in Green Bay to the second and third guy. I mean, if Jacob stays healthy, as you guys know, it's going to be very limited. You would never start a second running back in Green Bay. So if you're hoping for an injury, which nobody ever wants to hope for, then maybe. But I'm with you. I think that running back room right now is somewhat of a mystery after Josh Jacobs because of how these guys are banged up. But one thing I know about Matt LaFleur is these guys got to play. They got to prove where they fit in on the depth chart, and not being available, and we'll see what happens in the preseason, is going to impact what that room looks like.
We've seen some flashes from Jaden Reed. Last year was a disappointing season. Sometimes we don't see him on the field on 2 wide sets. Do you see anything changes for Reed this year? Could he have that breakout season, or is it going to just be this is what Green Bay does, and they're just going to spread it out among the wide receivers?
Well, I'd be real careful with, drafting wide receivers from this group for the exact reason that you just said. And let's face it, they invested in 2 wide receivers in the draft. And so those guys are going to have an impact on how much time these guys get. And I'm not that I'm concerned. I think it's a great group. And I have a hard time. I'm on with you guys, and I'm trying to separate my football head from the fantasy head because the football head says, much like last year, they were a group that was driven by, you didn't know who the number 1 guy was. They would distribute the ball to a lot of guys. Whoever got the right matchup in a game got the ball. That's not great from a fantasy perspective. Reed is a terrific player. Make no mistake about it. He's a terrific player. But, as I said, you invest in some wide receivers, and all of a sudden, those guys got to eat too. One thing I know about wide receivers, they all want the football. Everybody's open on every play. So he could be a terrific impact player, but still not develop into that number 1 that everybody thinks he could be.
Talking again with Bruce Murray here, going over Packers because you're at training camp right now. So let me follow that up with another wide receiver question, because the big question in fantasy is it Matthew Golden or Jaden Reed? We heard Josh Jacobs last season say in the offseason say they need an alpha receiver. Do you believe they have an alpha receiver on this team?
I think Matthew Golden is that guy, yes. Now, again, I'm always careful about rookies. The kid in Arizona last year, which we all thought was going to be the best wide receiver in the bunch, didn't turn out to be the best wide receiver in the bunch. They're rookies. Yeah. And until they go out and play, you don't know what kind of impact they're going to have. And by the way, I know they like Savion Williams too. I mean, he's having a really good camp as well, third-round draft pick. But I think you don't invest in the first round into a guy that, oh, by the way, the general manager told me didn't think would be on the board when they selected, and not expect him to be that alpha. I think you want him to develop into that number one guy and bump everybody back. That's the plan here in Green Bay if it goes the way they want.
What about Tucker Kraft? We saw 7 touchdowns last year, 70 targets. Any chance that he could be up higher in the pecking order and maybe be a fantasy tight end that we want on our roster?
Well, you'd have to tell me like what that list looks like. I mean, we know what the top guys are with Bowers and Trey McBride, and I think Travis Kelce is dropping down many lists because of what we saw from him last year. But, yeah, I mean, he's not going to be those guys. He's not going to be a 100-catch guy, but he's going to be a guy that's consistently targeted here, and he's going to get the ball in the end zone, something that McBride doesn't do often. Like I said, we've just gone over it. This team has a lot of mouths to feed. And it's hard when you have that many guys that you may find open on a given weekend. So I think he'll be a solid, consistent player week in and week out. I don't know if he's going to give you the 9-catch, 165 yards and 2 touchdowns any weekend. That's not him. But I don't think you'll be disappointed if you don't get one of those top guys having him go out every weekend.
Awesome. Well, Bruce, we appreciate you stopping by. Have fun today at training camp for the Packers, and hopefully we get to talk to you here soon again.
I just want to know from you guys, how are you evaluating Barkley? Give me the quick 4-1-1.
Adam's not doing it.
Yeah,
right,
I'm worried
Adam?
about the workload, the 482 touches. I'll take him if he falls like 7 or 8, but I'll take Bijan Robinson, Jameer Gibbs ahead of him at running back.
7 or 8, and then you'll be forced into it.
Or he'll probably be gone.
I'm all in.
You like him? You're all in.
Listen, I'm all in. I know the workload. It's hard to – I was in Philadelphia on Friday. It's hard to watch. They are so businesslike, and he looks so fresh, and that group up front is so good. I know. I feel the same way. He's one of those, boy, if he's there, I may not have a choice, but I think he's going to be great again. I know the workload. We've been saying about Derrick Henry. All he does is go out and rush for 2,000 yards every year, right?
Yeah, no, it's true. If there's one player that could maybe potentially come back and be a back-to-back RB1 in fantasy football, it feels like Saquon Barkley would be a good bet, even with the carries that we saw last season.
No question.
No question. All right, Bruce. Well, we'll let you go. Have fun out there, and hopefully we get to talk again soon.
Hey, thanks for having me.
All right, there he goes again. Bruce Murray, you can hear him and John Kuhn from Packers camp today at 2 p.m. Eastern on NFL Radio, Channel 88. They get to talk with Josh Jacobs, their GM, more from Green Bay. You can hear every tour stop right now on the Sirius XM app. Just make sure you go and search Training Camp Tour. That was fun, Adam. There's a lot of good stuff in there for the Packers. It is a lot of
Packers are a tough team for fantasy.
Listen, I know. But
the prices on the receivers are cheap. Right, they're like 40 wide receiver 40, and after that. So I don't have a lot. I did get Golden at a best ball or two. I know you like Tucker Kraft.
I do like Tucker Kraft. I just think if they didn't have an alpha receiver, if something happens that he gets, I just think he gets more. But that's not me saying I'm taking him top 5. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, he's definitely not top 5.
He's not top 5, but I believe he's my tight end 11 or 10, I want to say. But you're right. I mean, Matthew Golden, Jaden Reed, in most of these formats, we're not going to talk underdog because that's a little bit different. But you look at pick 100, pick 126 on ESPN, 99, 94. It's so funny though, depending on where you're drafting. Some of these platforms have Reed going higher, and some of these platforms have Golden going higher. Not by much, but it is always interesting to see the difference. I think by now, and I can look at my exposure, I believe I have more Matthew Golden than Jaden Reed right now. And I think that's probably how it's going to stay the rest of the offseason.
Yeah, the big thing with Reed is we just don't see him on the field in 2 wide sets. And it's another team that just spreads the ball around. And they drafted finally a receiver in round 1. So you would think that, okay, we spent draft capital on him for the first time in like 75 years on a wide receiver. So let's get Golden the football. But they still, there's just so many guys there. So it's tough. And that's why you see these guys go as late as they are. I do believe you will see Love pass more, though. He was not healthy last year, and they were forced to rely on the run a lot more. Just go look at the pass attempts, and I think you'll see it more in the middle compared to 2 years ago. Love was just not 100%, and they had to back off putting the ball in his hands more, and I think they will get it more. But still, either way, it's not like any of these receivers are going to jump into the top 20, top 30 even.
I wouldn't think so. I know that Bruce said that he does think that they have, which is surprising because a lot of people say there's still no alpha receiver on this team, right? But he said, hey, I believe that it is Matthew Golden. And Matthew Golden's been comped by Thor Nystrom, our own Thor, and Dwayne McFarland. Like Lad McConkey is kind of the comp that we've seen from him. So I just look at it and I say, you're right. Jaden Reed only had 75 targets in 17 games last season, and he was the team's best player. And you look around and you say, okay, Matthew Golden can probably step up in this offense, but there's still, it is a lot of mouths to feed. It's one of those things, but I do believe Jordan Love gets better though. He's someone that I'm comfortable drafting. If he falls down to me, I'm okay with it. I think we see more from his rushing game too. It dipped last season because of the injuries, but I feel like we could see more of him on the ground. We heard that from LaFleur, I think, over the weekend too. So that could be big for fantasy.
Yeah, there's just so many good quarterbacks in that range.
You don't count Jordan Love as one of those good quarterbacks in that range?
I have not taken him, so I guess I would say no, but
Okay.
I do see him being better, but I guess it comes down to your personal preference. Like, do you prefer him or Brock Purdy, Trevor Lawrence, McCarthy? He's in that range, and I like the other guys better.
Yeah, I could see it. He's, I think right now, like consensus from all the ADPs, he goes QB 16 off the board, though.
Yeah,
So
I
that
have
puts
him
him in-
lower.
Were you 20?
Yeah, around there.
Yeah, that's what I figured you had. 131 on ESPN, 120. Wow, so you like JJ McCarthy more than him? You like
Yes.
CJ Stroud more than him?
Yes.
Drake May,
Yes.
for sure. Drake May for sure. Trevor Lawrence for sure.
Yes.
So that has to be it.
Yeah.
Right?
That's
Yeah,
why.
look at me. Come on.
But that's why. Like, you
No,
get
I
to
get
a
it.
point. Now, maybe in a super flex league, if I wait, then I could see him getting he could land as my number 2.
Fair. Look at me naming all the quarterbacks you like ahead of him. It's like we're partners or something. Like we're
Yeah.
co-hosts. Like we spend every day together.
Somehow you got my rankings.
No, I swear I didn't. Other people will, and then they're going to go and draft with you, and it's going to be absolutely amazing. So, no, I just am a good listener, Adam. That's what we're doing here. We're going to continue on. We're going to continue giving advice. I want to talk about drafting from the 101, and we'll continue on from that. But at draft advice from the 101, we're going to go through that here coming up next. As always, appreciate everyone hanging out with us here today. We've got people back listening. Appreciate you all getting ready for those drafts. People have been spending the whole summer with us, Adam. It's a great time. We've got drafts starting up. I see questions, a lot of them all over there on X, on Twitter, at Valenzuela17, at Adam Ronis. Here's one I want to get to. Picking 11th in a 12-man league right now from Ryan. Keep Brock Bowers at 9 or Brian Thomas Jr. at 6?
I would take Bowers at 9.
Yeah, I would too. That's good. I think that's really, really good value. Shout out to Christopher who said, tuning back in and getting ready for fantasy football season. We are absolutely here to help. Another keeper question here, Adam, from Dez. Keep 1. Josh Allen in the 4th, Jordan Mason in the 12th, Michael Penix Jr. in the 15th.
I mean,
I don't know if you want to keep Mason.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I don't think you do.
I know the hype is growing and we're talking about him a lot, but I still can't keep him in 12.
You'd keep Josh Allen, right? In the 4th?
Yeah.
That's not much. I know
not
we talk
either.
about value, but you're not keeping Penix in the 15th. We haven't the small sample. It's too small of a sample size to say I want to keep.
Remember too, if
Michael
you're talking
Penix.
home leagues, Josh Allen might go in the 2nd round.
Yeah, okay, that's right. Because a lot of those that's why it's always tough. I don't know about your home league, but I draft in one where it's just college friends, and every single season it's one of the hardest drafts that I do actually, because
because you're not
sometimes
used. It's
I'm
unpredictable.
not used to it. Yeah, I'm not used to it. Quarterbacks go early. Sometimes the runs that happen aren't something that I can predict or see coming. Yeah, it's one of my most difficult drafts, which I love. Keeps me on my toes.
It does. When you play in these industry leagues and these best ball leagues, pretty much know what's going to happen. There's not a lot of surprises.
Yeah, but appreciate everyone, as always, giving us a follow. Make sure you use that promo code SXM20. Gets you 20% off any Tier 1 or Tier 2 Fantasy Life Plus subscription. Our rankings are live. We've got projections. We've got the Best Ball HQ. We've got everything you need to dominate for 2025. Make sure you stick around. RotoWire Fantasy Sports Today is coming up next. We'll see you same time here tomorrow.